And I'm so excited to have you back on the show, Natalie, because we have lots to catch up on as the hockey season is well underway. So we're going to get into that, but we're also going to have Marti Sementelli on the show as well. She was a pitcher for the U.S. women's national baseball team. And of course, there was a lot of great baseball news coming out on the women's side, which I know that we're excited to dive into as well. It was a great conversation that I had with Marti earlier today. But first, Natalie, how are you? How has your Hockey East season been so far?
Yeah, it's so funny, Laura, because I feel like whether it's baseball season or hockey season, I never get to see you. So I feel like this is the only time that we really ever cross paths to kind of talk about work, see what's going on in each other's worlds. But yeah, it's been a great start, kind of a hot start to the season. And I'm excited to be back on the show and to hear the interview with Marti. I know that's going to be spectacular. Love the news that came out for women's baseball. But yeah, hockey season, full swing, no pun intended there. But it's been just a lot of fun, a little bit of a transition coming from baseball to hockey, but now we're like kind of in the full swing of things. You got the weekly schedule set up where you have the coach calls, the game prep, and then the game execution. So yeah, I don't even know what week this is, but I feel like I've probably done close to 20 games now. But how about you? How are things feeling on the hockey side?
I mean, it's feeling good. I love what you said too about how we barely ever see each other. I feel like every time I see somebody, they'll be like, "Oh, I just saw Natalie." I'm like, "Oh, great! Like, I'm glad you did because I haven't seen her in weeks."
Yeah.
But no, it's so funny because people think of us as one and the same, but we barely ever cross paths. But no, same. I mean, there's so many differences when it comes to hockey and baseball and covering it. And there is an adjustment period, whether it just be with like setting up the coaches' calls versus going to BP, or even when you're doing your hits, like you need to be a little bit tighter with hockey because you really need to be out before the play talks. Like in baseball, you can talk over the action a little bit, but I really don't like talking over the action in hockey. It makes me nervous. So I try to get out of there as quickly as I can. I've had like one too many rinkside hits when a goal is scored. So I'm like, never want to do that again. Yes. Yeah. But no, it's going really well. And I think this past weekend, I know I had a couple of really good games. I did the top 5 matchup of Maine versus BC on Friday, which was such a good game. I mean, BC scored 3 goals in the final 10 minutes to come from behind and beat Maine 3-2. And that was such a good one. It was also an emotional game because they were honoring the Gaudreaus and Tony Vos as well before that. So there were just a lot of feelings with that game just in general. But you were glad to see that BC, pulled out a win on a night that I know meant a lot to those players and to that staff. And then on Saturday, I had a great game as well. I was doing Providence Northeastern, and man, I have never felt this more in my soul about a team. Northeastern needs to stop taking penalties. Like you hear that all the time from coaches, but like I've never believed it more than I feel it right now with Northeastern. They had a 7-minute penalty kill. And I believe it was the second period. Oh my
gosh.
7-minute penalty kill because they got called for a major and a tripping, I believe it was. So a 7-minute PK. And after they had been called for, penalties the whole game. And of course they had I want to say a 3-1 lead at the time. And of course Providence comes back and ties it. And it's like, that's all you can hope for, right? On a 7-minute PK is to not be losing the game by the end of it.
Gotta bear something.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it was a good weekend of Hockey East. What are some of the games that have stuck out to you so far?
Oh gosh, and I hate to say this, but they all kind of blend together in a way. It's like, when did I do this? When did I cover that? I know it happened in October. I think what makes a game memorable for me is not only my personal interaction with the coaches and the players, but the game itself. And I think what's been fun this year is I've had a couple of really huge comeback wins or overtime wins for UConn men's hockey this season. And it's so much fun to report there. And you get to be right next to the bench. So at first I was a little, I want to say maybe apprehensive just being so close to the players while I'm delivering a story on them. But what's so fun about it now is you're right next to the action and you can hear what the coaches are saying. When the team is scoring, they go crazy on the bench. You can see them doing, smelling salts or whatever, patting each other in the back, whatever it is to get them going. And in a way, it kind of gets you more pumped up as the reporter too. And of course you try to neutralize those emotions for when you're on air, but it's just so much fun. And I think that's been just kind of a good experience so far this year. not only the men's games, but the women's games at UConn. I feel like the coaching staff there is always so much fun to work with. That in Northeastern, I love working with all the coaches, but I feel like I've, in a way, kind of develop some camaraderie with these coaches, and we know, more personal things about each other. Like you can talk about skiing or how did your weekend go on the golf course or whatever. So that's been kind of a fun step because, I started working in Hockey East, when I was 18 or 19. So in my brain, I'm still kind of like the student. I'm still the kid. Like these coaches still kind of look at me as like a UNH student, but now I'm 25 years old and I'm like, no, I can kind of call them by their first name or talk to them about their kids or whatever. So it's been kind of fun in just kind of growing into that maturity side of it. But yeah, this past weekend it was fun because I got to cover Northeastern women's hockey at UConn, at Toscano. And this was kind of fun because it was a rematch of the Hockey East championship from last season. So when you look at Northeastern and UConn women's hockey from last season, it was just a battle to get the job done. And then when UConn finally took home the ring at the end of the season, Northeastern came in with a chip on their shoulder. And it was such a tight game Friday night. It was like, I think it was 0-0 going into the third period. And then it was Taze Thompson, the captain of Northeastern women's hockey. And she said, all we need is a quick goal early in the third period, and then we'll get the job done. And I'm pretty sure they scored 3-4 minutes in, and that was the score that held 1-0 Northeastern women's hockey. So it was kind of cool to see how the rivalry, I guess, goes from season to season and how, these captains know their teams so well. And they just, I don't know, it's cool because we're kind of growing with them in a way. And I think that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, Taze Thompson, the captain at Northeastern, is an incredible leader. I watched her actually on the bench at Providence, saw her walking up and down the bench, like kind of trying to keep her team's spirits up. I've covered Northeastern now twice. They've lost both games. But I think that they'll be fine by the end of the year. Like they took a little bit of time last year to really come together. I think it'll be a similar situation, but Northeastern and UConn, both games, Friday and Saturday, were 1-0 games. So those two teams, I mean, those are some tight games right now. The other Northeastern game I covered was at Northeastern. And it was Northeastern UNH. And I spoke with Hillary Witt that week about the team and just kind of like what she thought the strengths of the team were. And she said goaltending, of course. And I was like, yeah, obviously. Like Sedona Blair, I mean, incredible goalie. Obviously. And she's like, no, I really think our goaltending depth is really there. Like, I think we have really great goaltending depth. And I'm like, okay, like, all right. I mean, I feel like Sedona is going to play the majority of the games this season. But when I was at Northeastern, Nomi Martinez, I believe was her name. Yep, Nomi Martinez. She was in net on, was it their second night? Yeah, it must have been on Saturday. She was in net on Saturday, either 2 or 3 weeks ago. And she posted a shutout. She played great. And you're just like, wow, like Hillary Witt was not kidding when she said that they have really good goaltending depth this season at UNH. Like not only do they have Sedona Blair, they have Nomi Martinez. And I think that could definitely carry them this season. Have you gotten to cover BU women yet?
No, I haven't, but exciting matchup for them this weekend. They're taking on Boston College, and we know that that's always a wicked fun game on both the men's and the women's side. You have experience on the men's side last year, which looked like a movie. And then that looks so cool. But yeah, the women, they still can battle it out, and it's super cool. It's super fun to watch them because BU, especially under Tara Watchhorn, they've really emerged this year. And to see them start the season 9-3-1, they're leading the conference, 7 wins, maybe 1 loss. I'm not sure there, but I know they're leading the conference there. I just think BU, the Terriers kind of have what it takes this year. And I don't know how far that will get them, but I'm really happy and pleased with what I'm seeing, not only from Callie Shanahan and net, but the PK looks great. The power play is doing well. They returned a lot of scoring depth, added a lot of scoring elements. And I just think, I don't know, maybe you can talk more on the Terriers, but I'm excited to see how Saturday's game goes. Or Friday too. Both.
I think you covered it. I totally think you covered it. I mean, I think it's just taken a little bit of time maybe for the culture under Tara Watchhorn to really come full circle. But no, I mean, I think you're right. They just have one in-conference loss, I believe, and they have played more games than the other teams right now in the conference, so they're top of the standings. But even when you take that into consideration, they're still ahead, and I think they've caught a lot of people by surprise this year. So I mean, they could be the team to watch. They could be the dark horse this year. A lot of people I wouldn't say they were counting them out, but like nobody was really talking about them with UConn, Northeastern, even Providence to really be leading the conference this year, and they've done great. On the men's side, who are some of the teams though that have really stuck out to you? Like they look good this year. And I know you cover a lot of UNH. I've only done, I think, one UNH game so far, but who's really stuck out to you?
I think, first team that comes to mind, and maybe you can agree with this, is UMass Lowell. I am so excited for what they have this season, and I think it's such a morale boost from last year as well. And Norm Bazin is, you want to forget about last season. It happened, we learn from it, we move on. But when you look on paper and you acknowledge what happened for them last season, with maybe 8 wins total. This season, they're in the top 20 rankings in the country. I haven't covered them in a couple weeks now, but there's just a couple players that they brought in who they're just like dynamite players. Chris Delaney comes to mind. He's number 10. I think he's from Hopkinton, Mass. So he's a freshman, and this is his first year there. And it's so true. Like, big things come in small packages. I think he's 5'7", but I covered 2 games, and I think he had 2 or 3 goals on the weekend in this series. And I was just like, who the heck is number 10? Like, I looked up, his stats, what he was doing, and started talking to the coaches about him. And I think he's been a really nice addition. And I think the Riverhawks just look a lot more confident and assertive this season. But yeah, when you think about some of the other teams, I think, UConn has taken a step since last season. I think, UNH, they're still looking to get a couple more goal scorers going. They have a lot of veterans that returned, that it's just like, we've got you, but we've got to get you going for us. And once that starts clicking, Ryan Conmey, he's electric, and he's so creative. I don't know like what that kid can't do, because you watch him with the puck and in your brain you're like, oh, pass it, shoot it. But no, he does something that you wouldn't even think of, and he makes it work. And it's just crazy. So I don't know. I've had fun watching those teams. I've seen Maine a little bit, and I know you've seen them just this past weekend, but I'm so happy for their program because Taylor McCarr, I know there's still Josh Nadeau there. I don't know. It's been fun watching them, and I'm a UNH alum, so it hurts to talk about Maine sometimes, but you have to acknowledge where the good is happening. So I think Maine looks really good this season, and I'm excited to see what BC does too. I think it's really fun with James Hagens there, Dean Latorno, just some really cool players that you get to kind of watch grow and climb the ranks to their future careers. So yeah, I think that's been pretty cool. But how about you? You've covered some high profile games, and I'm sure that's been like so much fun, the energy to feed off of and everything like that.
Yeah, so I haven't covered UMass Lowell yet, so I loved hearing your perspective on them. I'm so happy for them, especially like you said, after the season that they had last year. I've covered a lot of Providence games this season so far, and that was a team that just like couldn't score for their life last year. And this year they have like great finishing ability, which is awesome to see. Tanner Adams has been playing great on their second line. Their entire second line, honestly, has been playing really well, as well as Trevor Connolly. He's a freshman. I covered Providence Northeastern this past weekend, and every time that Trevor Connolly was on the ice, the Northeastern fans started booing. And I've actually never seen that at a game before, where like fans are like so like a chat, especially at the college level, so in tune with one player. But every time he was on the ice, they were booing. And then BC is, I think, as legit as they were last season. I know obviously losing Will Smith was definitely tough, losing that center on the top line. But like you said, I think James Hagens has done a good job filling that spot. I know it's taken a little bit of time for those 3 on the top line to really come together. But I think that clearly Hagens had a great pass to Ryan Leonard on Friday, which won the game for them. And I think they're starting to come together. And I mean, I think they'll be a great team by the end of the year. Also, like you said, I know Maine got swept this past weekend, but they're legit too. So lots of great hockey so far this season. And if you're enjoying this show, new episodes come out every single Thursday. You can hear me talk more about Hockey East. And you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Okay, Natalie, I'm so excited to have you on for this next segment because I think you were on, I think your last time on was when we talked about the PWHL logo reveals and the name reveals. And we were a little bit critical. Like, we didn't necessarily give, like A+ reviews to everybody, but I think that's important. Like, I think honesty is really important. But that being said, I know there have been like some other teams that have come out with like names and branding since then. And I think it's really helped me put into perspective how challenging it actually is to come up with really great names and really great logos. And this past week, the PWHL launched all of the jerseys for every single team. And my initial thoughts, let me just say, my initial thoughts when I saw all of the jerseys together was they look so good together. Just like side by side by side. I was like, wow, these are so pretty. That was my first thought. I'm like, wow, like I just feel like aesthetically soothed. I'm a crazy person that like color codes their apps by like color. So when you swipe, it's like, soothing and pleasing. And that's how I felt when I was looking
all over this.
I was like, that's how I was feeling when I was looking at the PWHL jerseys. I just feel like they look really nice together and they're very complimentary. And I was wondering, I was like, I wonder how much thought like the league put in making sure that they all looked good together, and like how much of these jerseys, like how much was thought up by the league and how much was thought up by the individual teams and how they kind of came together, because just as one unit, they look really good.
I think so too. And there's a picture with players from each team, and this is probably the picture you're referring to, where they're all just, I think they're in the away jerseys, where it's just color saturated. And you're right, they do look outstanding together. And I think they've really picked an interesting color scheme, because it's not like, I don't know, your typical blue and white, red and white. It's not boring like that. They've used a lot of colors that they've used colors with intention, and I'm not an expert. I can't break down why they chose what they did, but I know that the jerseys and the way that they look just came out so like clean, and you're right, aesthetically pleasing. And I think they just do a really nice job bringing this league into a new light, I guess you could say. Like, it's like, here we are, we're going all in, we're going to have the coolest jerseys. Like, when I think of the NHL, I think my favorite color scheme is the Avalanche or the Kraken. Yep. And I think it's because they're the two teams that didn't go with that boring blue, orange, and white, or green and white. It's like, okay, let's branch out a little bit here. And I think that's what the PWHL did. They went in with the intention to stand out in a different way. And there's some that you might like more than the others, but I think altogether they look really, really good. And I've heard feedback from people just like, darn it, now I have to buy a new jersey. That stinks. Like, have to invest in one of those. And it's like everybody's making a joke at like how great they look. So I think that the excitement around that has just been, very, very loud. People are super excited about it. I know we are. And yeah, I don't know. I think they look great.
Yeah, and like I just need to emphasize, I'm not normally like a jersey aficionado. Like, I'm never the person that's like after a game talking about the sweet jersey combos, but this got me fired up. But what I will say is when you start separating them out, when you look at them individually, like on an individual basis, that's when I started to notice, I'm like, okay, there are some jerseys here that I like better than others. And that's what we're going to get into right now. So let's start with the Ottawa Charge. Now, this logo probably just had the most criticism in general when that logo came out, because people were saying, it looks like a Calgary Flames knockoff logo. And this is the first jersey we're going to talk about, obviously has the red color scheme, red and white. The C with, I don't know, it looks like claws or something coming off the back. What are your thoughts on this jersey? I'm just going to come out and say it. This was my least favorite.
Yeah, here I am bashing. I'm like, oh, they didn't use red and white, blue and white. Well, they used red and white, and you know what? They don't look bad. I think the away jerseys are much better than the home jerseys because I like the way they incorporated gray more on the shoulder pads and whatnot. Yeah, I think I'm with you. This was probably my least favorite just because I felt like it stood alone the least of all of them, because you're right, it does kind of look like, I don't know, to me it kind of looks like the Calgary Flames. It just kind of looks like they took inspiration from a pre-existing logo. I felt like the others kind of stood alone and were a little more independent, but I mean, they still look great. They still, I don't know, they're still like bold and clean, and I would be proud to wear that jersey if I was on that team. But yeah, I think this was probably lower on my list just because I feel like I've seen it before.
Yes, and I just didn't love that color red, to be honest. I think that was my biggest issue, was I think I wish it was a little bit more maroon. I don't know. The red just doesn't sit quite right with me, and that's not a jersey that I would be like dying to buy and wear. But, the players are going to look great in it at the end of the day. When, you're beating other teams, who cares? So, next up, we've got the Minnesota Frost. And I know this was a jersey that I think you really liked. They've got the purple scheme going on with the F in the middle, and it's kind of like a diagonal looking F with, I don't know, almost looks like a razor blade or something. I suppose it's supposed to be mimicking frost. And I like the lighter purple. It has lighter purple trim with some white trim as well. I like the home jerseys actually better than I like the away. I don't know. I feel like you might think differently on this, but I just like the lighter look.
Yeah, you know what? You know what else I really like about this is I feel like every time the NHL has played in Hockey Fights Cancer jerseys, I have always loved that version of the jersey. And I know the Minnesota Frost is embracing these colors as their own colors, but I really, really love them. Yes, I think purple just when you think about purple, it's like the color of royalty. Minnesota Frost, they're not royalty, but they're a pretty good hockey team. They won the Walter Cup last year. And I think I don't know, I think they look really clean. I think I agree with you. The home jerseys are a little bit brighter than the away ones. But yeah, I don't know. Taylor Heisey, her eyes look beautiful in that, by the way. I don't know, they just make your skin, your features pop. And I think these are just really, really pretty jerseys. And these are ones that I would probably seek out to buy just to have in my closet because I like them that much.
Okay, this is probably still not one that I am like getting into buying territory on, but I do like it. Okay. I think purple is just like not one of my top colors. Okay, next up we have the New York Sirens. And they have, I think, possibly the most interesting color scheme going on. They've got like a teal with orange, and those are two colors like I feel like they actually do end up being paired together a lot, but they're very different. And I think I like the home jerseys of these better, but what are your thoughts? This isn't a middle jersey for me. I still wouldn't buy it, but I like it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't buy this because I'm still, part of me, I mean, no offense, I think they look great, but like the other part of me is like, what the heck is a siren? When I think about a siren, I don't know why, I think about that mystical like mermaid creature. Yeah,
and that's what I think it is too. I'm actually not quite sure what they're going for here. I'm like, are they doing some sort of like play on some sort of, because they're supposed to keep the sailors away from the rocks, right? So I'm like, does it have something to do with like New York being on the ocean? I don't totally know.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's like it's kind of the thing to come in to guide you to the right place. Yeah. And maybe that's where they're going with that. But as far as the color scheme, I feel like, and I said this I think to someone the other day, I was like, the orange kind of throws me off. And that was my initial feeling. But the more I look at them, I'm like, I mean, they look good. Part of me feels like I still am having a hard time coming around to the name, which is giving me a harder time like embracing the colors. But I think the colors do work really well together, like you said. Like the teal, I think is that navy blue or something like that. Teal, navy, orange. Yeah. I don't know. I think they look good, but I'd probably put this lower on my list.
Okay. Well, we got to move through these last three pretty quick here, which is unfortunate because they're three of my favorites. But next up, we have the Toronto Scepters, and they've been getting a lot of, wouldn't say criticism, but there's been a lot of publicity around the fact that they look very similar to the cheerleading outfit that Taylor Swift wears in Shake It Off. I love the fact that they responded to it and they invited Taylor to a game as well as Gracie Abrams. They put the their names on the back of a jersey. But I like these, you know what? And I know that they're getting some flack for it looking like that cheerleading jersey, but you know what? I like Taylor Swift. Who cares? I think it looks great.
Yeah, I think these look nice. I don't know that music video. I'm not a Swiftie, unfortunately, but it is funny because now I also can't unsee it. When I see it, it's like, oh, this is a Taylor Swift team. But no, I think they look pretty cool. Not my favorite, but I do think that they look cool. I like the blue that they used.
Okay. Well, next up we have the Montreal Victory, and they have like this. I wouldn't say this is maroon. Would you say this is maroon? It's like almost like a rust color, as well as paired with the gold. And this one actually is one of my favorites. I especially love on the away jerseys. They actually have a tiny piece of light blue trim, which I think looks really nice. So these are, and I love the logo too. These are one of my favorites. I would buy this.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's supposed to be a rivalry between Montreal and Boston yet, but like I also really like these. I guess I would say maroon or rust red. I'm not sure, but I do like this color red. I can get behind it. And I don't know, the thing about Montreal is they are who they are. Like they speak French, they embrace the French culture. I think that's so cool. And I love the fact that Montreal is doing that. It just seems like with the color scheme, with the logo. I don't know. I really like these jerseys.
All right. Well, last but not least, we have saved the best, and that is the Boston Fleet. And I'm not like being biased when I say that the Boston Fleet are the best jerseys. I truly think that these are the best jerseys. I think the color combination is the best. I think the logo on the front is the best. I love that they're kind of taking a little bit from the Hartford Whalers logo, and I love the fact that it's like an anchor and they're really playing into the nautical theme, as well as the waves inside the B. It looks great. Like, I would absolutely wear this jersey, and I am so excited that the people of Boston get to be able to wear it.
And I will be buying one of these jerseys, Laura. I think these are awesome. And to have them right essentially here in our home is amazing. And it's just like the way they did it, even the thought, like in the, I don't know what you call them, the stripes at the base of their torso and their wrists. They actually like designed it so that the stripe, the farthest down is biggest, thickest, and it moves thinner and thinner as it moves up to kind of replicate waves as well. I just put a lot of thought into this, and I love the green. I love the seafoam green. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really, really pretty color scheme. People are saying it kind of reminds them of Seattle Kraken, maybe, but that's why I like it too, because I think they just use really tasteful colors, and I think they're going to have so much fun with what they can do with their fan base, calling them the crew. They were talking about like objects that they give to the MVP post game, like maybe they'll use a captain's hat to signify the MVP of the game or something, but they're just going to have a lot of fun with this. And this is a jersey that I will 100% purchase.
Yes, the attention to detail on these jerseys was top notch. So I'm going to give you my final rankings. You can give me yours, Natalie, but least favorite to favorite for me goes Ottawa, Minnesota, New York, Toronto, Montreal, and then Boston number one. But those Montreal and Boston jerseys, those are my two favorites for sure.
Okay. I'm trying to remember what I wrote down here, but I think my least favorite is Ottawa. I think I had Montreal far down, but I think you've kind of sold me on it a little bit. So I'm going to say Ottawa 6, New York 5, Toronto 4, Montreal 3, Minnesota 2, Boston 1. I'm going with that.
Love it.
Boston's the winner.
Yes, Boston, of course, is the winner. If you're enjoying the show, new episodes come out every Thursday. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. All right, well, we're about to toss to that interview with Marti. The new Women's Pro Baseball League is coming in 2026, and we are so lucky that we got to have Marti Sementelli on the show today to give us some perspective on where women's baseball has been in the past and where it's going in the future. We're so excited to have Marti Sementelli join the show today. She's a pitcher for the U.S. Women's National Baseball Team. She was a gold medalist from the 2015 Pan American Games, and she was the youngest rostered player at 15 years old to compete with Team USA at the World Women's Cup of Baseball. Marti, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we're so lucky to have you this week, in which is a big week for women's baseball because it was just announced that the WPBL will be kicking off in 2026. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, yeah. I'm so happy to be part of the show. Thanks, guys.
Well, I always like to start these interviews really at the very beginning. So, where was it that your love of baseball came from?
It started at a young age. My dad really was the first person to put a ball in my hands. He loved playing baseball. He grew up playing the game. And, when he found out he had a daughter, he said, you know what, I can still teach her how to play baseball. And kind of started as just to keep me busy in the house. And then it kind of snowballed into something that I loved. I loved to play, and then ended up loving the game. And then it's kind of just continued throughout my entire life.
What was it about the game that you really enjoyed?
I don't know. Especially being a pitcher, I just love controlling the outcome of everything. Just being involved in every single pitch is just truly. It just gives you all the power in the world to lead your team in the right direction, and it's kind of just became so addicting and something that I wanted to continue to get better and better each day, and just gradually practice every day to be the best.
Softball is really known as being that kind of female counterpart to baseball, but at what age really for you was it that you started to see the boys and the girls kind of separate between baseball and softball?
Growing up, I only saw one other girl play in Little League. That was for one season because I really thought I was pretty much the only girl ever to really play. And then when I got to high school, everyone was like, "Are you going to play softball?" And I was like, "No, I mean it's a totally different sport. I can continue playing the game." I never really doubted myself. I never thought like, "Oh, well, since you're getting a little bit older now and the field's getting bigger, you should stop playing the game that you love." I never really had that as an option. And as I got older, I did find out that there are other women that do play throughout the country, and that was really enlightening to hear.
I have a couple of questions about that. I mean, the first one is when you said that you really thought you were the only girl that was playing, what was that like for you?
I thought I was alone because I didn't have what they do now with all the different programs going on. I just played baseball, and I didn't really think of anything other than that about being gender specific. But when I did find out that there were other girls playing, I was like so relieved because I could relate to them in so many ways, and they were going through the same thing as I was, just trying to prove yourself in a male dominated sport. So it was really awesome to be able to get to relate and make friends with these girls all across the country.
When was it that you found out that there were other girls playing baseball?
So I was just going into my sophomore year of high school. And then after that, it pretty much changed my entire life of my relationships, my friends, the way I got to play baseball because I got to travel all over the world, which I never would have thought that would have happened. It's truly the best thing that's ever happened to me is playing with Team USA.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, about getting to play with Team USA and getting to play with just a group of women. What was it like to be on a women's team after playing with men and boys for so long?
Honestly, it was just the fact of being treated normal, not like you stood out in any particular way. On the boys' teams is always like, can she hold up with the boys? Can she compete? Like, we're waiting for her to fail. And then with the women's team, it was just we're just playing the game that we enjoy, and there was no waiting for the ball to drop, of like waiting for her to quit or anything like that. It was just it's an easy camaraderie with getting along with the other girls. With the guys, it's awesome, but at the same time, you can't really relate to them anyways. So it was really nice to just fit in. Everyone likes to fit in.
No, I completely understand that. I mean, I work on so many broadcast teams where it's entirely men and it's great. Like it's a fun time, but then there's a different feeling sometimes when I do end up on an all-female crew. I'm like, oh, like there's just like a different type of camaraderie that's different. And I love them both. Like I think that they're both great, but it does feel different.
Exactly.
Um,
Same feeling.
I want, yeah, I wanted to ask you too. I know you were in Jimmy Kimmel when you were 10 years old, and it's so, excuse me, it's so interesting because you were just pitching, you were just doing the thing that you love, but you were getting all of this kind of recognition at such a young age. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's funny to look back on now because at that time when I was so young in Little League and when all this media attention was happening, I really didn't think of anything of it because I really didn't know what the big idea was. I just like I'm just playing baseball. I didn't really think it was something so special. But looking back at the whole Jimmy Kimmel show, I mean, I think it's one of the coolest things ever now when people find out about it. Because back then, that year, it was his first year ever having a show. So at the time, no one really knew who Jimmy Kimmel was either. It was just going on this talk show that I had no idea who this guy was. And getting to strike him out is definitely a lifetime achievement that I'll never ever forget. So yeah, no, I've had so many great experiences through baseball. It's brought me to so many fun things in my life.
Who were some of the pitchers that you looked up to when you were a kid?
Still to this day, my favorite pitcher is Pedro Martinez. I always related to him on his size and stature. He wasn't the biggest guy out there, but he had full command of his pitches. Along with Greg Maddux, he would just paint the corners. And you could ask any one of my teammates. I'm pretty much known for my location and my off-speed pitches. Just throwing strikes. No one likes to be on a field that, someone's walking every batter after every batter. So those are the two pitchers that I really, really looked up to. And even to this day.
So you grew up in LA, but were you a Red Sox fan at all growing up? Especially, I know you mentioned Pedro Martinez as the first name there.
Yeah. So I was in Boston, but we moved to LA when I was like 3 years old. So that like kind of Bostonian in me never really left. I was through and through a Red Sox diehard fan. Even when I was in LA, I would, try to see them as much as I could, even when they were playing the Angels or anything like that. But my grandfather, Rocco, he worked at Fenway Park as an electrician. So it's kind of known that we're really heavy Red Sox fans, and he would take me there all the time when I was younger. So yeah, through and through Red Sox all the way.
That's awesome. And I know you wanted to play baseball in college. What was that recruiting process like for you?
Yeah, it was very difficult. Just like I said, there wasn't anyone I could really look up to in that regard. So I kind of just said I'm going to play no matter what, and I didn't let anybody stop me. So I pretty much made my recruiting trip for myself. I did the scouting of the schools, contacting the coaches, making a list, really doing all the interviews. Even my high school, like I did it so much on my lunch break that they made me an office at my high school so I can just do my recruiting for me. And they end up raising money for me to go fly out to North Carolina to go to the schools that I wanted to visit. So I pretty much did all the work on that one, sending videos out there with like little DVDs because that's what we used to use back then. But yeah, no, it was definitely an interesting time. Things a lot has changed from now, I'm sure. But I enjoyed, kind of doing it my own and doing all the work.
How many schools showed interest in you in return?
I think I made a list about 10 schools. Since our USA baseball complex is in North Carolina, and all of our USA tryouts and everything were based there in Cary. I pretty much narrowed it down to one state. So I just looked at North Carolina and then kind of funneled everything into there, and then narrowed it down, I think, to like 7 to 10 schools that I had on my list, and then visited like 6 or 7 when I went out there. And then when I left that trip, I pretty much knew where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Montreat College, and that's where I found like the best fit for me. It helps, on the campus and really getting to know the coaches in person rather than the phone call and email. That really just helped me figure everything out.
No, I love that. Everything kind of happens the way that it's supposed to. And if you live life the right way, then everything, people say everything happens for a reason, but I think it's like as long as you live with intention, then things always turn out the right way.
Yeah,
and for you, you said it just seemed like at every level, it was like you were proving somebody wrong. You were saying, you can't play past high school, you can't play past college. But what opportunity for women to play after college?
Yeah, so we didn't have these camps and everything, when I was growing up, but Major League Baseball has really stepped in and made it possible for a lot of girls to play with other girls, and awareness of everything. So they gather these girls throughout the country, and they invite them to camps depending on their age range, and they get them out there and show them, hey, there are other girls that are playing, and maybe they've never like been a part of a women's team or a girls team or anything like that. So they introduce them, and they play games and practices and get taught by our USA national team. And I've been lucky enough to coach a lot of those camps, and kind of just gets them in the forefront of like, you guys can be on the national team soon. And, if you keep developing, and it kind of guides them and in the direction and funneling this like pipeline of women athletes. But then they also encourage you to continue playing and into the college level as well. Now, after college, the USA team, I mean, it doesn't matter what age that you are. I mean, I started when I was 15. I'm in my 30s now, and we have had women that have been on the team in their 40s, all on the same team. So no matter when you graduate high school or college, or if you're in high school or college, you can play with whatever age, as long as you have the talent level. So there's options to keep playing the game that you love at that international level.
So the Women's Pro Baseball League was just announced that it's going to be coming in the summer of 2026. There's going to be 6 inaugural teams that will be probably, it seems like, in the Northeast area. And I know we were talking a little bit before this call, and you said it was news to you when it came out as well. But what was your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we have talked about, all the players, for so long, that, it's great that, we could potentially be on a men's team and be one of the only players, and gradually move up in independent ball and continue to go as far as you can. And we've always said, wouldn't it be so nice if we could just have our own league, and just be ours, like it used to be, like a league of their own. If they could do it all the way back then in the 50s, then it's definitely possible to do it in 2024. So it's very exciting to be able to see the new opportunities that they have to show their talents and be able to be part of an all women's team, and to not only just have that as a couple weeks out of a year, but to actually be in a league is what all the girls have dreamed of happening. Even the All-American women that have played in the league, they've always wanted to see a new league while they're still around, be able to witness that again.
I love that you said, if there was a league back in the 50s, there should be a league now in 2024. Why do you think it's taken so long?
Yeah, I guess the public haven't wrapped their brains around it. It hasn't been accepted a lot of the times, that women have been so funneled into like, you should only be playing softball. You need to, stay away from, we were taking a spot away from a guy on a team. I've heard so many different comments, but they deserve to play the game just as much as the males do. And I think it's important that, the world is changing, and in the sports world, especially in women's sports, all across the board. And I think it's just now time for baseball to give it a shot too.
We were just talking again about how there's been so many women and girls that have been funneled down the softball track. So how much talent really is out there right now at the women's professional level when it comes to baseball?
Yeah, I mean, it just keeps growing. It's funny when I say that I taught some of the kids at these camps when they were like, 9 or 10. Well, now they're like in high school going into college, and you see how much change that they've had and improvement they've gotten. And it's like these camps, we just keep finding more and more girls that are playing, and they develop, and then now they're ready to play at this next elite level, on the national team and with this professional team. So it's going to continue to grow. It's getting more popular because it's known in the world, in media. Like I said, it wasn't like we didn't have Instagram and social media back then to really like push the women's baseball, but now it's so out there, and it's known that like they know what goals that they can strive for, and they don't have to be alone in this world. They can all have these goals to meet, and that there are opportunities, and they're only going to continue to grow as time goes on.
Yeah, and I think that's something, that's so great about the WPBL. It's really for especially the really young girls that are out there because they see people that they can really look up to. So my question for you about the WPBL, what do you think that league should look like in order for it to be a success?
I think if they want to have the most women out there, and like numbers wise, or usually our events happen in the summer. So I would assume, since some of the girls are going to be like in school, like high school, college, or maybe after that, usually the summertime is the best bet to have those opportunities. That way you can have a higher success rate. So I would relate it to something like the Cape League, like in Massachusetts. The Cape League is it's one of the best talented pools out there, and it does happen when those guys are out of school. So I would say some sort of format like that would give really good success. And I'm sure over the next couple of years, it's going to be tweaked, and there'll be some things that work and some things that don't work, but they'll get a sense of what what success means for the league.
Mm-hmm. My last question for you. I'm also a sideline reporter for the Worcester Red Sox. And I remember there was one time I was reporting at a game down there and I was in the elevator and I met a young girl at the time. And she said that she loved playing baseball. She had played baseball her whole life. But then suddenly some of her teammates they decided they wanted to start playing softball. And she was, the only one of her friends left on her team. And she was, telling me how hard it was because she wanted to play baseball, but her friends went to go play softball. And it was hard for me to really give her advice because I had never been in a situation like that. And, I kind of understand both sides of it, right? Like I understand being at that age and really wanting to be around your friends, but I also understand wanting to play the game you love. So for all of the young girls out there that are going through that, what advice would you give them?
I would say don't listen to the outsiders. Really just listen to what your heart says. If you really believe that you can play at the next level, or if that's truly something that you want, and you don't want anything else, then do it. Practice, find the resources, really do what makes you happy. Don't do what everybody else wants you to do. Do what your heart says. And if that means playing baseball, then, the opportunities are out there, and don't stop fighting, because this world has a lot of opportunities and only going to get more out there. And also, by the way, I go to the Woo Sox games all the time. So I'm there all summer.
Perfect. I think, you spoke on a panel last year, didn't you?
Yeah, I was at the women's and baseball panel. It was an awesome event to be in. Ever since then, the whole Woo Sox family has brought me in, and I bring all my friends and family to the games. And it's just a cool little place to see games at. And yeah, I love it there.
Me too. I love baseball. I love being a part of the entire community, just women in baseball. It's such a great group. And Marti, I'm so glad to have gotten to meet you today.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thank you so much. And maybe I'll see you at one of the games this summer.
Perfect. See you then.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
If you're enjoying the show, new episodes come out every Thursday. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. We thank Marti Sementelli again for coming on the show. It was awesome to get to learn more about her journey through women's baseball. And time now, Natalie, for our wins of the week. And there's a win that actually means I wouldn't say it means a lot to me, but I don't know, because it's not about me personally, but it's one that really kind of touched me, and that was Tara Vanderveer, who was the head coach for Stanford women's basketball. In her first year after being retired, they put her name on the court at Maples Pavilion to honor her and honor her legacy. So it will now be the Tara Vanderveer court at Stanford. And she has done so much for not only women's basketball, but just women's sports across the board, and especially women's sports at Stanford. Getting to be a women's athlete at Stanford meant so much, and a big part of that was because of her and the legacy she left and everything that she was able to do with that team while she was the head coach there. Of course, last year she became the winningest head coach in college basketball history, men's or women's. I love that when she was getting honored, she had a Letterman's jacket on, which had all of the tally marks, which tallied tallied up all of her wins, which they gave her last year when she broke that record. But truly just an incredible person. And I even remember my very first time when I had to do a story at Stanford for like a journalism class. I literally sent her an email and I was like, hi Tara, like, can I come by? And probably said, hi Coach Vanderveer, can I come by and like talk to you after practice? And she responded. Like, I didn't even reach out to the SID because I didn't know that was like a thing. And she responded to me and said, yeah, come on by. And I met with her, and then the SID gave me a hard time afterwards because I didn't go through him, and she stuck up for me. She's like, no, she emailed me and like I told her she could be there. And she was just awesome. And yeah, I just thank you, Tara, for everything that you've done. And I'm so happy that every time I watch a Stanford basketball game or even volleyball game, I'll see your name on the court.
Yeah, that is awesome. What a special moment for her, and just to see that come full circle for you as a student too, and now as a young woman in your career. I think that's pretty cool, and that's an awesome win of the week. I think mine is hockey relevant. I guess we'll just continue with that topic. But I thought it was pretty cool. Kenzie Lalonde served as the first female play-by-play announcer on a TSN NHL broadcast, and I think this is kind of crazy in a way. I don't know exactly if TSN has incorporated women before in their broadcast, but to have her as the female play-by-play, I just thought was really cool. And you can see a lot of people, both male and female, were celebrating this moment for Kenzie. I actually watched her when I worked at the 2024 Women's Worlds in Utica this past year. And I found like the TSN crew, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I want to see who's doing what. And Kenzie was the play-by-play announcer. And I remember listening to her and just thinking she is so good at her job. So to see her take this step and to know it's a childhood dream come true for her and just kind of pushes what the rest of us can do, I think that was a really cool win to see.
Awesome. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Respect Her Game. And for everyone watching at home, we will see you next week.